Good morning. Welcome to First Sip from Draft for Upside and Blueprint Fantasy Football. I am Brewery Mark. Joining me, as always, is Chris Esports Emmerich. And for the first time, Mr. Lou Landers. How are you guys doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Looking a little rough. Tried to stay up through the night to watch some Worlds. Didn't quite make it. Made it to about 2. Went pretty hard. And Fantasy Football Blueprint, you were kind of talking like Yoda there for a second.
Yeah. Lou, how's it going?
It's good, guys. Just happy to be filling in here for the Danger.
Yeah, Danger's off up north, having a little vacay. So we'll have to cover for him. And for us, you listen to our advice and take it. Where Danger, it's always the opposite. So
that's fair too. I mean, honestly, like we were talking before we got on, I'm just scrambling with all these COVID potential players. I mean, I was dealing with it. I'm sure you guys were if you played season-long fantasy baseball, but it's crazier in football because it's one game a week. I mean, it's, there's not as many replacements. Now bye weeks have started, so everyone's scrambling. I'm sure there will be people wanting to know some sit or start type things just about that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy, and everybody's complaining about it. Do you do it like they're like they're injured players on a bye week? Do you do substitute players? I saw a lot of leagues are doing declare a backup kind of player that the commissioner swaps in, all kinds of stuff. I mean,
that's the one that I've used in one of my dynasty leagues. I had to do it last week for Mahomes. I remember. So
I like how the one guy in our league just assumed that we were doing that. He's like, hey, and then somebody else is like, no, it's not going to fly because I lost the game last week because of it. And I agree. Just roll with it. It's $50 league. Who cares?
I mean, everyone's affected, so I don't see why it's such a really that big of a deal. I understand that it's annoying for some people, and obviously some teams are more affected than others, but it's not like there's a significant advantage for anybody. Just roll with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, exactly. And I'm a relatively lazy commissioner, so I don't like doing extra work. So everybody should just deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to what, if your player got hurt, how would you handle it? It's the same type of situation. So,
yeah, exactly. All right. So as always, we are a drinking show. You guys got anything to drink this morning? I'm doing the mimosa.
Oh, okay. Well, I've got a Dear Peter or Pear Peter. I don't know. It's a play on the.
It's only 8:13 for me, guys, and I just can't drink that early anymore. So just coffee.
That's all right. That's
but
okay.
I made sure my cup was right here so I could raise it and play along.
Yeah. No, coffee is fine. I actually got up early this morning, had 2 hours of coffee, so that's why I'm able to do this now.
Perfect.
Nice. Well, mine's a nectarine sour ale, so it's pretty nice. Lacto, PDO, and Brett. So it's a nice morning drink.
Oh, I love sours. Sours are my absolute favorite type of beer right now. I love them. I get them anytime I can.
Yeah, this is nice. It's from Trogs.
Yeah, Trogs is great. All right, week 5, gentlemen. As always, we do DraftKings is what we discussed. We'll go position by position. So let's start at the top with quarterback. Who is your main play? And we'll start with Chris.
I like Pat Mahomes and Teddy Bridgewater are the two guys that I'm kind of targeting the most right now as I'm building my lineups. I think Mahomes is in a great spot. I think you can always go Mahomes. I don't think that there's a lot of problems. The other guy that I do like, and I think these are 3 guys that I highlighted in the article, was Deshaun Watson. I just think, some of the articles that are coming out, the stories about how that team felt about Bill O'Brien, they in some ways really liked his strict nature. But at the same time, nobody was really having fun. I guess practice was not really what practice should be. and they're going to kind of open up and be a little free and have some fun out there. And I think that kind of, if you're having fun and you have that discipline already built in, this could be a game where they really go off. So, a Will Fuller stack is certainly there. I think I might actually stack it a couple different ways. So kind of excited to see how that game goes. I think there are other plays on the board too that are just fine, but those are kind of the three guys that I think I'm looking at towards the most, pending any type of ownership reviews.
Lou?
Yeah, I share the same sentiments there with Chris. I have Bridgewater as my main play in the large GPPs. I do have some Watson. I do have some Mahomes in a 50-50 cash type games. I do have some Dak Prescott as well, just because what he's done the last 3 weeks is nuts, just putting up massive points. I do think that Houston-Jacksonville game is going to be very high scoring, though. So I definitely like that Watson Fuller stack that you mentioned. I'm going to try and get some Chark. I'm going to even try and go cheap with some Chenault Jr. As well with that. But for some reason, not feeling Minshew. As much as I like some of those Jags pass catchers, I don't like Minshew.
No, I like the running game a little bit better in Jacksonville this week. And Minshew, I've been playing defenses against him because he tends to throw picks. He makes a couple mistakes a game. So I'm right with you with that. Any concern with so Dak is almost 30% owned. It looks like Watson's going to be right up there too, as the top two owned quarterbacks. Consider fading them, at least in a GPP. They're solid cash plays.
That's why I have a lot of Bridgewater in those GPPs.
Yeah, believe it or not, Bridgewater is actually slated to come in fourth, right behind Watson in terms of ownership.
Yeah, well, he should. The matchup is too good to pass up on. And I will have a Daniel Jones lineup simply because as a Cowboys fan, I've seen the defense play the past few weeks, and they've made every quarterback, good or not, look good. So it's worth, at that price, to take it one shot with Daniel Jones, because at just 5,400, I feel like he could at least hit that value. And he has shown in the past he could run with the football as well. If you saw last week, the Cowboys can't tackle. So might be an interesting GPP play. But even then, I like some of his weapons more than I like him, similar to the Minshew take.
Yeah, and I think that there's actually, just browsing over ownership, which I really hadn't until we logged in here. Don't really tend to look at it until right about now because it kind of normalizes at this point. There are some really interesting plays down here on the board. I'm going to just throw out a couple names here. I'll give some commentary first. Kyle Allen, I think, is a terrible play. I don't think that there's a lot of guys you need to jam in your lineup. Despite his price, I have really no interest in Kyle Allen. But, coming down here, there are two guys that are super, super low owned. We're talking less than 2%. Ben Roethlisberger and Ryan Fitzpatrick. How do you feel about those two guys? And Jared Goff, for that matter, too. These guys are all sub 2%.
I like Big Ben this week, Lou.
I like Ben. I don't care much for Fitzpatrick. As much as the Niners have a bunch of injuries on defense, they're still a good defense. So I don't love that. And Fitzpatrick's price is going up every week, it seems. Certainly agree, no Kyle Allen for me. Who was the other guy we had? Goff?
Yeah, Goff against Washington, but I don't know. Is Chase Allen playing?
Yeah, I think he's a little pricey for my liking based on the fact that I don't see him having that monster week. He might put up 15 to 20 points, but big deal.
Yeah, I said Chase Allen. Chase Young was a full participant in practice on Friday, so he should be playing. It is a groin injury. To what extent he didn't practice pretty much. He practiced Friday, limited on Thursday, and then Wednesday he sat out. So, it definitely, if he's back, it makes that offensive game for Goff a little more challenging, as there's going to be some defensive line pressure coming from Washington. But Fitzpatrick at 5.6 is still an interesting play, and I think you can really look at him in terms of cash game viability and GPP too. And I get what you're saying. San Francisco has a good defense, but look at what San Francisco's allowed to quarterbacks: 27 and 24 points. That's to Wentz and Murray. Now, the other two games were against the New York teams, the Giants and the Jets, and we know they're not very good. So, yeah, they stifled those two teams, but we're talking Daniel Jones, we're talking Sam Darnold, quarterbacking Adam Gase's offense. So I like Darnold, so I don't want to kind of put him down there. I think it's more of a situation with the coaching. And then on top of that, they gave up tons of points to receivers. We're talking 40 points, 41 points, 21 to the Giants, who don't really have anybody, and then 25 to the Eagles, who, again, don't have anybody. So, I think Fitzpatrick at that low, super low ownership is something that in a very large GPP like the Millie Maker, you can kind of look to, and especially like maybe on one of those. What time is that game? Is that an afternoon game? I'm assuming. Is Miami going there, or are they going to Miami? What's happening here?
Dolphins and Niners.
Yeah, that's going to be a 4:05 game. So that's something like in the big afternoon, where I hit that. I think that's a super interesting play, especially when you have a kind of a limited game set to look from. You're looking at that game, Dallas and New York, where everybody is going to go. And I think that's a great game. Don't get me wrong. You got to have some exposure to it because it's likely to pop off. But the reality is Dallas is not going to give up 40 points every single game. Dak is not going to throw 60 times every single game. No. Do I think this is the game where that kind of breaks? I thought it was last week, so I can't really say it's going to be last week. But I think that at some point,
I don't think Dak is going to have to throw 60 times to beat the Giants or to keep the game up with the Giants. The Giants are good enough to go up by 20 points the way that some of these other teams have, so I see it normalizing a little bit. That's not to say the Giants won't score, maybe not 40 points, but they might score a lot more than they have in the past. One thing I wanted to add was San Francisco. You're absolutely right about them giving up points to quarterbacks the last 2 weeks. Also keep in mind that they didn't have Garoppolo for at least one of those games. And that obviously, they didn't move the ball well. Their offense looked terrible. And that, of course, sets up opponents with much better field position, shorter field, ability to put up more points, as it all kind of goes hand in hand. So just another, I guess, devil's advocate to play there. He's back. That offense might move a lot more smoothly, might control clock a little more. That's going to help their beat-up defense a little bit.
But at the same point, Garoppolo is prone to throwing 2 interceptions in a game. He's done it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in his career in San Francisco. And, granted, he's been there a couple years at this point, but he's missed a lot of games. So that's a lot of times to have double interception games. I mean,
it is, and that's why one of my low pro plays this week is the Miami Dolphins defense at $2,400.
Yeah, that's tough because it is a bad defense. But I mean, again, if you're looking for that edge, again, going back to ownership and talking about that Dallas New York game, Darius Slayton projected to be 27% owned, roundabouts. Amari Cooper right around 20% as well. So, these are the two spots. I guess if you're going to go there, I find it very difficult to get away from Slayton just at his price and his role in that offense. And
I have Slayton everywhere. I have a ton of him. I don't have Amari Cooper, though. I'm not buying into Cooper. I'd rather go cheaper with CeeDee Lamb if I'm going to buy a Cowboys wide receiver, or even take a shot that Michael Gallup has a Gallup game versus Gallup being the third man there. Because at any time he could go off too, and he's even cheaper.
This is a Michael Gallup show, so we like Michael Gallup here. He's right up there in the pantheon of sports heroes, along with just big names like Kevin Na, friend of the pod, Jim Burek. So these are guys that we kind of just look at and you plug in. So Michael Gallup's always a play every week.
All right. Well, since you brought up wide receivers, why don't we roll right into that? Lou, why don't you start us off? Who are your favorite plays?
I mentioned Slayton already, as did Chris. Obviously, I mentioned CeeDee Lamb, but I actually really like, oddly enough, I mentioned not loving Fitz. I do like Devontae Parker. I love Robbie Anderson this week with Bridgewater. That's the stack I'm going with him. I'm not even looking at Moore or Curtis Samuel. So Robbie Anderson there. Let me go to my actual lineups rather than just scrolling through. I have a slight touch of Golden Tate, who I can't stand, but I can't have Slayton in every lineup. I have Sammy Watkins. I have Tyreek Hill. I have Deontay Johnson with Pittsburgh. I have a lot of Will Fuller. And I'm sure I have more, but those are just guys that are in multiple lineups for me.
Yeah, I mean, I echo all of those. I'm going to give you guys a play that I don't think either of you guys are going to mention. And even if I'm going to tell you his price, and I'm going to see if you can guess him. I mean, I'm sure Mark will, because we're probably looking at similar stuff. But it's a trick question. Let me put it that way. I'm looking at a receiver that's 3,000 that I didn't put in my article. So if you read the article, he's not there. 3,000.
The Falcons kid.
I told you it was a trick question.
Okay.
Jeff Smith on the Jets. That wide receiving core is banged up. Jeff Smith had like 8 or 9 targets last week. I think his workload will be similar this week. Arizona is not a wonderful defense. They need to throw the ball to somebody, and he looked good. He's 3,000. He's not somebody I put in a cash lineup, but definitely somebody that you can plug into some of those large GPPs like we discussed earlier, the Millie Maker, any of those super heavy $100,000, $200,000, $1 million, those type of contests.
Is Perriman and all those guys besides Crowder still out?
Yeah.
Then it's a good play. I mean, I don't know how much I trust Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is Flacco throwing to him?
Yeah, I personally
champion Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought him up though, because it reminded me that I do have some of I just call him Zach because I don't even know how to pronounce it. The kid for the Falcons. He's also $3,000. Obviously, you want to monitor Julio's situation specifically, but this guy saw 9 targets last week, 6 the week before. Carolina doesn't have a great defense either. He's just $3,000 as well. Zacchaeus,
Zacharias, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Either way,
the big OZ.
Yeah, exactly. Either way, he's a 3,000.
When I said OZs back in the day, that's not what I meant. Look. Yeah, that's a good play, but everybody's on that play. I mean, not everybody. I mean, but he is slated somewhere between 10 to 20% ownership, just behind Cooper, Ridley, Anderson, and Slayton. So, this is it's not a sneaky play.
No, it's not a sneaky play, but if I'm going to have someone that is heavily owned like that, I'd rather it be a $3,000 player than spending the $7,400 on Cooper like everybody is.
Yeah, well, and
I'd rather differentiate up top versus at the bottom.
Well, and here's the thing. You could put both of those guys in a lineup. You have tons of salary at this point, and you don't have to go down to a schmuck like Kyle Allen who can't throw the ball deep.
What do you guys another guy I took a look at, I have in a lineup or two, is Greg Ward for the Eagles. Steelers have had some trouble with some wide receivers this year, and he's got 18 targets the past 2 weeks. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, Greg Ward, AAF alumni. I love Greg Ward.
Yeah, I put him in several lineups actually. I really like that play this week. It's the only thing I'm really playing in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm scared off of Ertz now. I have no interest in him ever.
Yeah, he looks so old out there. He's so slow.
Yeah. He's I mean, if you want to talk tight ends, we can talk tight ends, but definitely staying away from Ertz now.
Yeah. So for me, just a few things. Any love for DeAndre Hopkins? I know he's at 7,900. He's the highest price, but I kind of like his matchup against the Jets. And Will Fuller is probably one of my highest owned. And I like DJ Chark.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can play any of those guys. I'm not crazy about him. Like Hopkins, you can play every week. I mean, he's $8K. He's pretty expensive. I think it's a situation where people don't really look at him just because of some of the other plays that are right there around that price. Like, do you want to play Hopkins over a guy like Ridley or a guy like Cooper? And I think that it's a fine play. I just don't think that that's where most people are going to click. Conversely, I don't think that's where a lot of people are going to optimize either, whether you're a hand builder or optimizer. It's the big running joke that's going on in the industry right now. Some people didn't realize that, the majority of people hand build their lineups and don't just, set exposures in a optimizer. Even when I'm entering, 20, 30, 40, 50, shit, I tried to do 151 time hand lineups in MMA, and that was a disaster.
I only use my hand.
Yeah, right now I have like 50 different tabs open, and I just go one by one, build it, and look at my exposures later, and I kind of take it that way. So yeah, absolutely. So I don't think Hopkins gets in there as much as some of the other guys around his price, and I think when you can get a high price guy that a lot of people aren't going to, that's still a good play, it really does make your lineup kind of unique in the sense that you're looking at a guy that you can't fit certain other guys that you could otherwise. And I want to touch on something earlier, Robbie Anderson. I thought this was going to be a kind of a little bit of a sneaky play. I thought DJ Moore was going to have more ownership since they're practically the same price, but he doesn't. So I think that while Robbie Anderson is a good play, I think pivoting over to DJ Moore is something that, is just as good of a play, even though Robbie's in my article, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I like what I've seen with Bridgewater and Anderson a lot more this year than what I've seen with the rest of the crew there in Carolina. Speaking of Hopkins, though, it's not that this is irregular for him. He's done this a lot through his career, but he has pretty much missed practice all week. So kind of like the Julio Jones thing, where it's like Julio is probably going to play, but he's going to be a hobbled Julio, and he'll be good but not great. You might see the same thing from Hopkins, who was hobbled last week, played, still had 7 catches, but only for 41 yards versus the 2 of the massive weeks he's had earlier this year. If you're going to play him at 7,900, you want him at full strength. You want that 20 to 30 points. You don't want that 12, 13 that you're going to get because of the volume.
Yeah, and I want to welcome to the show. He's muted right now, Mr. Adam White.
Wow.
Wow, just gracing us with his presence. Looking pretty sharp, too.
I look sharp?
Yeah, looking sharp right there.
Got the chin diaper going and everything.
Chin diaper? Yeah, I need that. I drool a lot. What's been going on? I just wanted to say hello and see how the football breakdown's going. Big NFL Sunday coming up, eh?
I think you're trying to get my plays so you know who to kind of pivot off of in the seasonal league that we have for DFS, where it's basically a 2-man race. Danger, I don't even know why he bothers to put in a lineup, and then he's like, oh my God, I put in the wrong lineup. Oh, give me a fucking break.
We're just finishing up wide receiver. Any last minute thoughts from you, Adam?
We skip running back, so
we'll go back to running back. Yeah. Who's your favorite wide receiver, Adam?
Favorite overall wide receiver or value?
Yeah.
No, Michael Gallup's your favorite, but we're talking about today on the slate.
Gallup's probably my favorite overall wide receiver in the league. Shout out to Colorado State. I actually love Slayton this week. Against that Dallas defense, I think they're going to need a wide receiver threat down the field, and I got faith that Danny Dimes is going to throw him a few extra targets this week. So, what's he, 4,600 on DraftKings? That's pretty tough to pass up.
Like 80% owned.
Yeah, well, whatever. I'm not even looking at ownership, and it's worked out so far. So, I actually like Hopkins this week up top. I think he's going to be back to fully healthy and ready to rock. So, I like him as a higher priced receiver option for sure.
All right. Well, Adam, why don't you start us out on running back?
Jeez.
At the top of the list is Ezekiel Elliott, James Conner, CEH. They're all the high-priced ones. Who's your favorite play this week?
It seems like everyone's going to be on Zeke and Edwards-Helaire, right? But there's a guy over 6K that I like a lot who I think is primed for a pretty huge week. So I don't think we need to talk about the super high owned guys, but I love Jonathan Taylor this week. I think he's going to going to see a huge workload against Cleveland. I think they're going to try and keep the ball out of Cleveland's offense's hands. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him get 25 touches this week. And that run defense is suspect.
Are they though? I mean, they're number 5 DVOA. Oh wait, actually, I'm sorry. That's the other way. No, I mean they're number 10 DVOA. They've given up, middle of the pack. I don't think Taylor's workload has exploded like people like. I mean, I don't hate him, but I certainly wouldn't look at him in cash. I mean, he only played 45% of the snaps last week. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think there are a lot of plays around there, so I definitely think you can differentiate yourself. But that over 6K mark, I mean, in running backs, almost everybody is viable. On the other side, you've got Kareem Hunt, you've got Mike Davis, James Robinson. I think Hilaire is a slam dunk. And then, if you think that this is going to be the week that Dak doesn't throw the ball 60 times, maybe it's the week that Zeke runs the ball, 20 sometimes.
I love both Zeke and Edwards-Hilaire. I just think he could be a great pivot option to get you some leverage at low ownership. That's the main thinking behind it.
Yeah, let's take a look. I mean, he's slated at, just to give you an idea, Zeke is over 30% owned. Mike Davis is going to be the highest owned. Hilaire's up there around 30 as well. So those guys are carrying some massive numbers. Kareem Hunt, super high. Josh Jacobs, surprising. David Johnson, around 15%. That's not surprising. And then, these guys that like James Conner, Robinson, Taylor, all sub 10%. And if we're looking sub 5%, you've got guys like.
What's Le'Veon Bell at?
I was going to say Le'Veon Bell, around 3% ownership.
See, I had a feeling on that. I don't look at the ownership typically, but I think about it, and I have Bell in a couple places because 5,100 for him is a joke. And Arizona's not good against the run. They're going to be dumping off to Le'Veon Bell, especially in garbage time. He could rack up 10 points just on 8 catches for more than that, like 7 or 8 catches for 40 yards, not to mention potential stuff on the ground. So 5,100, he's one of my cheaper plays for sure. But you guys brought up Mike Davis, Kareem Hunt, CEH. I mean, they're everywhere in all my lineups. I have some Robinson. I have some Zeke, but I feel like he's way too chalky this week. I even went back to Drake once. He's burned me so many times. I went back just once. I couldn't resist.
I can't stay off him. I have him in a bunch of lineups this week. I can't quit.
You're pot committed. You're pot committed. It's like Sean Jackson.
I refuse to have him go off finally at one point and not have at least one share. Whether it's in my worst lineup, fine, but I need to at least know that I didn't completely bow out. Earlier in the week, I was really into Todd Gurley for some reason.
Because you just watched the Monday night game where he scored like 2 touchdowns. That's
so maybe. But also, Carolina has been really bad against running backs for about a year and a half now. And if not for the Raiders being as bad as they are against running backs, they'd be the worst in the league. So I look at Gurley, and I feel like there could be a lot of points in Atlanta, Carolina. And I feel like he's not going to have a lot of ownership either. So he's a guy that at one point I had a few shares of. Now I'm just down to 1 share, but just another guy kind of like a Le'Veon Bell that might surprise some people this week and probably be fairly low owned because everyone's on the same guys like we mentioned, like the Davis and the Hunt and the Robinsons and the CEH and the Zekes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing I want to mention, just touching on what you said, is Le'Veon Bell. Yeah, certainly a good play. You got David Johnson just for $100 more.
Have him too.
Better play, but Le'Veon Bell, like, he should be able to blow up. But again, we're talking what the coach should do, what you think he should do, versus what he's actually going to do. And when you look at what Le'Veon Bell has done in his time in the Jets, his highest fantasy output was 23 and 21 points. Those were the first 2 games with the Jets. He had another game against the Dolphins last year that was 20, but every other game is around 15, 16, 17, 10. So I don't know. If you're playing him, I don't know if you're necessarily putting him in there expecting him to blow up. I guess he has that potential, but his floor.
No, I'd be thrilled with 20 points though. At 5,100, I'd be very happy with that. He's in my flex wherever I have him. I would be happy. I'm not trying to win. I'm not trying to come in first place with Le'Veon Bell either. I'm trying to cash. Depends on if you're in a GPP, you're trying to come in first place. No, Le'Veon Bell's probably not your play. If you're in a bunch of 50-50s, if you're in some smaller tournaments, Le'Veon Bell is a different play. And if he puts up anywhere from 15 to 20 points, it's going to help you because someone else isn't going to have him.
More we talk about it, I like Le'Veon Bell more and more, actually. I mean, I don't think he's going to blow up, but I guess
me either.
If he puts up 15 points, I mean, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
What I just did and what everybody should kind of do is Lou has been on fire in terms of his best bets. So if you're a subscriber or Fantasy Football Blueprint, you can go ahead, look at our best bets.
You just jinxed it, though. I'm going 0 for 5 this week. You're all going to.
I know. I put a bunch of money on all your picks. I put a parlay in there. I'm hoping for a week 4 magical 5 for 5 here. Shit, I'll be happy if you go 3 for 5. So although
I don't think I've done any worse than 3 for 5. I think I've gone 3 of 5, 4 of 5, 4 of 5, 5 and 5. So I'm bound to go 2 for 5 now.
The Carolina line is down to +1.5. Since we've been on the show, is at 2 and 5 minutes ago it was +2.5. Now it's down to 1.5.
And earlier in the week it was even bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things, though, I will say is I've been jumping on lines that I like early in the week. So I found that sometimes they, once the public starts going heavy on one side, the lines become a lot less beneficial. That's for sure. And I've also found that betting over on pretty much every game is not a bad idea either, because there's 1,000 points scored every week, it seems. It's almost impossible for games to go under now. Even the Broncos and Jets, which should have gone under, went over by like 30 points.
I'm going to give you a good play here. I think this is just kind of off the board here, but I think Sunning Gaming is a live dog at +120 in their quarterfinal match against JD Gaming. We didn't get to see it, best of 5 in the playoffs. I think that's we're taking a live dog here. I love it. And Gen G at -130 against G2. That's just disrespectful, man.
Chris and his esports. All right, guys. Any last thoughts on running back, and we'll move over the tight end?
Just browsing through kind of this ownership. The other guy that I think sub 5K, sub 5% that's interesting, especially for a guy like Lou who doesn't like Ryan Fitzpatrick, but kind of wants some part maybe of that Miami team, is Myles Gaskin in terms of what he's been able to do and the role that he's playing. Sunny Gaming just went up to +125, guys. Just hold on. That is going to get bet up. That is beautiful.
Focus.
People are watching and they don't trust it. They don't trust it at all. But yeah, so I think Gaskin just based, 64% of the snaps, 76, somewhere between 60 to 70. He's getting a lot of the action in terms of the high value targets. So I kind of like Gaskin. As a really, 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 really thin type of man, this could go really bad really quick.
What about I did have some more shares of him. I don't have as many now. Antonio Gibson at just 5K.
I was going to go there next. Absolutely.
Okay.
Love him actually.
Okay. That's about it for me from a running back standpoint. I don't want to start grasping at straws. I might have a share or two of somebody across the board, but I pretty much given I'm fairly chalky with running backs this week, except for the David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell type plays. Yeah.
So, my final thing is my favorite play for whatever reason I landed on is Robinson with Jacksonville. I think is in a good spot, and he's winding up in a lot of my lineups. All right. So moving on to tight end. So as you guys know, I am a cash player mostly. I don't play a lot of GPPs. I'm struggling this week to figure out who's my cash tight end.
Kittle.
The
Hello.
problem is 6,600. And how do I squeeze in other stuff?
Waller for sure. Then, if you want to save some money,
Okay.
I mean, I could tell you my favorite tight ends this week are Ebron and Ingram. I have mostly Ingram. He always crushes the Cowboys, and we've already talked about how bad their defense is. I think Waller is the safest play of the week, besides, of course, Kittle. But Kittle's, $700 more. But if I'm you, I'm going. If I can, I'm trying to get a Mahomes, Kelsey, maybe Watkins stack in a cash game. Get the Kelsey in there, but otherwise, Kittle and Waller are the guys for cash games to me.
Okay.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, Kelsey, Waller, I think you can play Ertz. We've discussed that we don't like him, but I certainly like Ebron, but probably not for cash. I mean, that's just not a play that I'm looking
Not for cash, no. I don't even love Ingram for cash because he has been very inconsistent.
I think the cheap guy for cash that you can go to is Logan Thomas. I mean, look, I get it.
It's been so frustrating, though.
Yeah, but
So
I mean,
frustrating.
the volume has been there. Kyle Allen is, while Teddy Bridgewater is one of the best deep ball throwers, despite what Mark will tell you, Kyle Allen is the worst. He the most inaccurate, so he's going to have to throw those short passes. And I think that as long as Thomas gets the similar volume to what he's been getting with Dwayne Haskins, and I don't see why he wouldn't. These balls are going to be catchable to him. The same reason you like Gibson, though, is like they're not going to be able to stretch it. Probably why you don't play Terry. I think he'll be okay, though. I think he's a fine play, but I like him down there at that 3,500. Just you're looking at just pure targets. He's got to catch some of these at some point. They've got to get it in his vicinity. I mean, we're talking, let's see, last week, not so many, but that was against Baltimore, but 7, 8, 9. I mean, he's catching half of them. Let's say Kyle Allen throws him 8 passes. He can catch 6. So he's a third of the way there.
Yeah, if he gets the targets like he should be getting, then I'm with you. I agree that he's worth a shot. But again, I would feel better using him in GPP than cash because I don't feel confident in him. But the potential, like you're saying, is totally there.
Yeah, but if we're talking a cheap tight end and you're looking to save, you don't have anybody around that price point that is in any better of a situation. Sub 4K. I mean, really,
yeah.
sub 5K. I mean, you've got Gesicki, same type of situation, getting the volume, just hasn't been able to cash in on it. Schultz and Hurst. Schultz, if we think that Dallas is going to control this game, he probably doesn't get the same type of usage he's had in some of these garbage time kind of comebacks.
No, he won't.
And Hayden Hurst, you thought when Julio went down that this guy would get some more action, but I mean, 6 targets, 51 yards, 4 catches. I mean, beyond that, he's getting the targets, but a lot of them are downfield. They're not high probability catches that you would expect a tight end to get. So he's not going to catch a lot of them. So when you look at a tight end, usually they're going to have, 5 catches on 6 passes because they're wide open. It's a small pass. It's, like a Tom Brady special, but that's not what Hayden Hurst has been, receiving in that offense.
Again, Ebron and Ingram, for me personally, are in that perfect price range where I don't think I'm overspending, and I think I'm going to get very good production out of both of them.
I guess the cheap guy that you can go to if you just want to get crazy and stack that Big OZ, Jeff Smith, you go down to Gerald Everett at 2,500, not getting massive volume, but look, we know Jared Everett can
he can find the end zone. He's got a nose for it.
I mean, 2,500. I don't even know what you do with your lineup at that point when you've only 3 players and you've only wrapped up like 8,500. I might just put a lineup like that together and just kind of see what that.
Just for the hell of it,
yeah.
You probably get Kittle, you get Hopkins, you get Cooper, you get Tyreek Hill. What else?
What about your boy?
You get Zeke.
No. I'm done. It's over. Everything. He's not even catching the balls that are thrown to him at this point, but everything lined up for him last week, and it didn't come to fruition. So, it's it's time to move on. That is a guy I can quit. Drake is a guy that can score 3 or 4 touchdowns. Herndon's really never proven that. So,
No.
We can get away from somebody like him. It's harder to get away from a guy, like I said, like Drake, harder to get away from a guy like Deshaun Jackson that has a proven track record of being able to produce these big games. And by all means, if you're a first-time viewer and this is something that you're looking to get some good advice on, what I would tell you is Gerald Everett, Jeff Smith, probably not lineups you should play. These are just, if you're running like 10 and you're okay with burning some money, because that's essentially what you'll probably do with them. But play them. And if they win, give me the credit. Send you my PayPal.
All right, so let's finish up on defenses. What I like to do here is just give me one defense that you think will either hit or is a great value. Chris, I go for the value. I just look for a minimal defense that will give me enough points to make it worthwhile. So let's start with Lou. Who's your defense of the week?
I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Any particular reason?
Good defense, kind of know what you're getting. Carson Wentz has been throwing a lot of interceptions. Steelers have had 2 weeks to prepare for this game after their game was canceled last week. They're at home, and they're a good defense. They can score. I like them. They're cheaper than that of the Ravens and Cardinals and Rams, etc. as well.
Chris?
I like the Steelers, but I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to go with a little bit more expensive, going against a rookie quarterback. You have a fantastic defense here at home, where the crowd's going to be crazy, that piped-in crowd noise. I think Baltimore is a great play.
They are.
And I've been doing mostly the Chiefs. I
have Chiefs and Ravens too, by the way, in my lineups. That's it. I have one Dolphins and the rest are Steelers, Ravens, and Chiefs.
Yeah, Chiefs at 3,500. I can easily see them making value. They're still cheap enough. I can play them in a lot of lineups and save enough money to play, higher end running backs. So I really like that fit. I really don't like defenses this week on the lower end. Lou, you had me intrigued a little bit on Miami. They could probably easily make value. They're only 2,400. But outside of that, I really didn't like anybody until you got up to the Chiefs and higher.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was feeling on it too. I just took one shot on Miami, and when I fell into that Miami trap, let's call it, it was before we knew Garoppolo was going to play. So when I saw it, I was like 2,400, Mullins or Beathard. Yeah, I'm in.
Right.
At this point, I have the lineup with them in there. I like the rest of that lineup, and as Chris so eloquently brought up, Garoppolo's thrown some picks. So.
All right. So any last thoughts on the slate today? We'll start out with Chris.
No, I think we covered it pretty much in depth. I'm not going cheap on my defense. I just think that they've priced them really well, and there haven't been a lot of spots this year that you can actually do that and feel good about it. I think that there's tremendous value on the board for the running back position, especially given ownership. Fucking sucks that I like Le'Veon Bell so much now. Fuck you, Lou. I might feel completely different. I might feel completely different in like 7 hours.
Yeah, man, I have more Bell than I wish I had as well.
Oh man, remember maybe you play Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson and just kind of reminisce about a couple years ago when they're both okay, and you had to shove them in and figure out how you're going to get. You'd have to play a dude like Jeff Smith in the lineup with Big OZ and Gerald Everett just to get these two guys, and it didn't matter because they were going to put up 40, 50 points. Cash games were so easy. You throw in Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown, David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, man. How that lineup construction worked every single week, it's beyond me. You always have those guys. This year you just don't. We don't have it. Last year it was McCaffrey.
Well, because every single game is so high scoring. So it's like there's always these guys that fly under the radar because no one's really thinking about them, and then they end up just going off.
What, Adam?
I miss Team Jamma Man.
No, man, Adam, what's going on, man? What is this? What is this?
Oh shit. Team Jamma Man.
Oh man, I thought it was like a Gardner Minshew coming in with a Gardner Minshew. Like this is the play, man.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I didn't bring my headband today. I should have worn that in memory of last year's festivities. So what I missed? What are we talking about? I had to run and take care of it.
We're just finishing up our last thoughts of the slate. Do you have any overall thoughts of the main slate today?
The Slayton or the slate?
The slate.
It's the slate. That's the truth.
Yeah, I do. So I ended up with what I know is going to be a very, very chalky lineup. But with Julio just being announced as out, obviously you got to play the 3K versus Zephius or whatever the heck his name is. I think Slayton is not a must play, but he's a very good play at that price. And then it's like Robinson, Zeke, Edwards-Helaire. You can throw Connor in there, any one of those mid to high price running backs, and then, throw one of your favorite kind of mid to high tier or high price receivers in. I like Waller a lot. Did you guys talk tight ends much?
Yeah, Waller was top of our list.
There you go. Yeah, I love Waller too. They're going to be trailing at KC. Like, I don't know. And then you pay up for like Steelers defense or somebody in that neighborhood. So I don't know. I think it's a fun week for tournaments though, because you know how chalky 4 or 5 guys are going to be. You know where the ownership's going to be. You can really differentiate and play some of the guys that are being overlooked. So, I mean, I guess that sums it up. It should be a fun week in tournaments. There's going to be some guys that go off that are probably sub 5%, which makes it fun. I just don't have time for 20 lineups.
Yeah, exactly. Lou, final thoughts on the main slate?
Honestly, everything's been kind of hit upon at this point. I just am hoping for the chalk plays that I've used to actually be good. Because if they're not, then I'm really screwed. I know a lot of other people will be too, but I am going with the Zach, whatever his face is, at 3,000 a lot. And I'm going with a lot of those running backs that we talked about. Not as much with Zeke, but with CEH and with some
Le'Veon Bell.
With a little bit of Bell, no, but with Kareem Hunt, Davis, and CEH, man. Those 3 guys, I have a ton of them, and Evan Ingram. If Evan Ingram doesn't go off, then I'm in a lot of trouble too. I think I'm about 70% ownership of him in my lineups.
He's been disappointing this year.
Very disappointing. I'm hoping for a low ownership, and he always kills the Cowboys. So,
all right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Crossed. Good luck, Lou. Thank you, Lou, Chris, and Adam for jumping in Danger's absence. Looks like Adam froze up. Chris is jamming out. Thanks again, Lou.
You got it, buddy.
But it worked out well.
It's good to see you. Did you hear the part about how Ricky Fowler's a piece of shit? I've got a live lineup here with Kevin Na, my boy. I think he could win. He could win. What do you think about that?
Wyndham Clark is going to take it home.
Well, I'll be looking for my check in the mail, Chris, when Le'Veon Bell puts up 35 points today.
35.
All right, gentlemen.
Run that far anymore? Can he run far enough to accumulate 35 points?
All right. So we were Draft for Upside. You were watching First Sip. You can find us on draftforupside.com or fantasyfootballblueprint.com. Thank you to everybody for joining us, and we will see you next week.